Just got done strapping up the Sebenza. Got some winter camping planned with Connor. Boy, it sure would be nice, wouldn't it? If you could get a knife that performed like a Sebenza, that wasn't a folder. Had a more talented person running it. Boy, that sure would be nice. Sometimes you just would rather have a fixed blade. You know, especially if you didn't have to put it in your pocket. You had room to, you know, carry it in a sheath on your belt. Didn't want to have to worry about cleaning goo and food out of it. Oh man, I got fixed blades that are too tiny, neck knives. I got Bowie knives that are too big. If I could just have something like a Sebenza in a fixed blade. Not gonna happen. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 28 January 2014. And I just have one thing to say. Au contraire, mon frere. Tonight, from the sharpening bench, we have a fixed blade in a beautifully crafted American-made sheath with a very familiar logo embossed upon it. Look here. On the tang of the knife, same logo. This could be interesting. Would you look at that? That appears to be a fixed blade. Awfully similar to a Sebenza. Well, of course it is. It's the Chris Reeve Nyala. It kind of is a fixed blade Sebenza. Pretty cool indeed. Of course, I'm kidding you guys. I knew this was here the whole time. This particular Nyala purchased just a few months ago, I think sort of a Christmas present to himself, belongs to our old buddy Toadstkr. I really wanted to look before I did the video tonight to see if I had like a little rubber frog I could impale with the tip of this knife, just for the sake of the video, but I didn't. Toadstkr went on a knife buying excursion, I think one Saturday, to a knife store that's in his area, and he came home with a large Sebenza 21 and a Nyala from the same visit. His first two Chris Reeve Knives, purchased on the same day. And this knife, it's about a 4-inch blade. So I guess in blade length, if I line up the handles, it is maybe what? A 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch longer in blade length than a Sebenza. But if I sort of line up the cutting edges, let's see, do that this way, without banging them into each other. Well, I guess there's still a little bit of an advantage to the Nyala, but not as much. Maybe, gosh, not quite a 1/4 inch, I'm thinking. Stock thickness is a little different though. That looks to be, I think, more than 4 millimeters on the Nyala. That looks to be about 3/16 of an inch. I should have looked up the specs, but not really a review, more of a show and tell and a discussion. But I think that's 3/16 stock of S35VN, considerably thicker than the blade stock on the Sebenza, nearly double. What is a Sebenza? 3 millimeters? Probably 4.5, I guess, on the Nyala. Blade also a little broader than a Sebenza. Let's see, set them up so you can get kind of a top to bottom here. It's going to be kind of hard to do for the camera. Oh, that might be sort of close. Just a little broader knife. And as you can see, both blades hollow ground. The hollow grind on the Nyala also a little broader than on the Sebenza. And a little different in profile if you look closely. Through the main run of the blade, and both these knives, interestingly, are sharpened at a secondary bevel of 15 degrees per side. So during the main run of sort of flat blade, if you look at the breadth of my bevels, clearly a little broader on the Nyala. So the Sebenza ground a little thinner in the main cutting area. But if you notice, the hollow grind on the Nyala sort of makes a curve up as it approaches the tip, which makes the thickness at the edge much more consistent from the main cutting edge up to the tip. And if you notice, the breadth of my bevel, very consistent from base to tip. On the Sebenza, you see that line where the hollow grind stops, goes straight the whole way. So my hollow grind doesn't follow the belly of the knife, resulting in a bevel that at 15 degrees, consistent from base to tip, leaves an edge bevel that thickens or broadens as we get to the tip of the Sebenza. Kind of interesting, I think, because the Nyala, a fixed blade, thick stock, more of a camp knife, actually tapers more to the tip than does the Sebenza. This will be really hard to see. Let me put these together and give you guys some perspective. Remember, the Sebenza on the left or the top, the Nyala on the right or the bottom. I think it's pretty obvious the Sebenza at the tip is a little thicker. Interesting, I think. Frankly, I would appreciate it if the Sebenza were contoured toward the tip like the Nyala. Don't tell anybody, but I actually do have one criticism of the Sebenza. And some guys might say, well, gee, I'd kind of like my tip to be a little more robust on the Nyala. But it's pretty delicate. Weight-wise, what do we know about the Sebenza? What does it weigh? 4.8 ounces in 21 clip point form. A total guess, you guys can check me on this, but I'm going to say this is about 6.5. I'll put the weight in the description. See how close I am. Haven't looked it up yet, by the way. But overall blade profile with some subtle differences. Very reminiscent, don't you think? Also, neat little swedge in the spine of the Nyala, sort of contributing to that thin appearance at the tip. Blade material and finish, they're familiar, aren't they? We've got that sort of Chris Reeve personally designed crucible S35 VN CPM variety, the only variety of S35 VN. Particle metallurgy steel. Sort of boutique designed by Chris Reeve in conjunction with Crucible to perform pretty much exactly like, well, I don't know why I'm holding that up, pretty much exactly like S30V, a steel in which Chris was also instrumental in designing, except a little more corrosion protection and a little easier to sharpen in the field. Now, I don't think this steel was designed specifically with, you know, a fixed blade camp knife or small woods knife in mind, but what a great application for it, don't you think? Easy enough to sharpen, in fact easier than S30V, just about the same edge retention and wear qualities as S30, and a little more corrosion resistant. So you can take this thing into the woods, beat the tar out of it, sharpen it on a rock, stick it in the sheath wet, get it home, it's going to be fine. Pretty cool. Speaking of getting it wet, check out the handle scales on this bad boy. That is linen micarta, nicely contoured and milled. Really cool. A few people have complained that it's a little too aggressively textured. I don't really find that to be the case. It doesn't hurt. And look at the direction the grooves go. At the back of the handle, we've got these diagonal grooves, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Look how my fingers fall. They fall right in those grooves, and then they really aid in purchase. I'm going to grip very loosely. I mean, very loosely. They just lock right into my fingers. And then at the front of the handle, the grooves are longitudinal. So if we're gripping the knife thusly, even though the handle is fairly roundish, those grooves are going to keep the knife from turning in my hand. Pretty neat. And frankly, the roundish handle is almost a little unsettling, because when you grip it, just its shape alone doesn't inspire much confidence. It feels like the knife wants to turn in your hand, but it's got this mechanical grip that sort of keeps it from doing that. Interesting. But that's not the only thing that just sort of doesn't inspire confidence about the handle. First of all, I'm not sure why we go from this pretty large dimension at the butt and taper down to something pretty narrow at the front, because if I'm in a hammer grip, I've got, you know, you've seen me grip knives like this before and complain because I've got this gap, this space. And it kind of bothers me on this knife too. No matter where I go, that's just not a real great grip. But having said that, if I were gripping this knife in a hammer grip for the purpose of, let's say, making feather sticks, and I'm really choked up on it, that seems to change just a little, because there's some stability provided by my thumb, which sort of lies, if I'm in that sort of feather stick grip, my thumb just lies nicely in that plunge grind, and all of a sudden the knife becomes really kind of nice and solid. Cool. So it's the kind of a handle that when you first grab hold of it, you don't love it, and then all of a sudden after you spend some time with it, it sort of starts to make sense. In the draw cut grip, which, you know, if you guys know, if you use your knives out in the woods, you know this is a grip you're going to use a lot, and it's really secure. let's say you're in the woods and you happen upon some bad guys. You need to flex this knife into a defensive roll. Reverse grip? Not so much, I guess. Not much to do with your thumb. But, that's not why they made this knife. We do have some, I don't know if I'd call this jimping. There are some grooves cut in the blade tang, which also aid along with these diagonal grooves in the handle in grip for your back 3 fingers, and then some nice jimping up on the spine. And again, this doesn't need to lock your thumb in and rip your skin off. It just needs to be there for sort of an index point, and it's pretty effective. Let's see, how about that sort of side grip? Yeah, plenty good there. And what if we come forward into a pinch grip for fine work? Again, this broad hollow grind gives you lots of room for a pinch grip with your thumb and index finger without ever feeling like you're in danger of coming into contact with that cutting edge. Pretty neat. So, I've been saying, camp knife, small woods knife. Well, this is Toadstkr knife, so I didn't baton with it. I have absolutely no doubt that you could split kindling really effectively with this knife. Certainly robust enough stock, even though the tip is kind of thin. For splitting 2-3 inch logs into kindling, you're not going to hurt this thing. Not even going to come close. It's not going to be the best slicer of fibrous food items like apples and potatoes, because the hollow grind is going to start to widen out and catch you on the shoulder of that blade stock. However, it's still going to be a much more than adequate food prep knife at the campsite. Who cares if you're wedging through your potatoes a little bit? Doesn't really matter. What a robust little tank it is, and so well made. Let's just kind of come in close and you guys just take a look. Let's just stop for a second right here, shall we? Do you see that? A perfectly executed plunge grind and sharpening notch. Oh. Why is it so hard for the rest of you knife makers to do this? They all need to be sharpened someday. Wouldn't we like to have good, straight, sharp, cutting edge all the way to the base? This is how you facilitate that. Please watch, please. Fit and finish of the handle scales, of course, are impeccable. Got a nice lanyard, hold the back, and the knife does ship with sort of a standard Chris Reeve looking lanyard, nice and long. Use that how you want it. The finish on this blade is much like a standard Sebenza. It's that really super fine, almost soft looking stonewash. Just beautiful. Toadstkr sent me this knife because for some reason I think he uses a Lansky system. I'm sure he does. I would imagine these come with that sort of thickish working convex edge. It's sort of like a faceted convex that Chris Reeve does. The secondary edge bevel is actually applied with a belt on a huge contact wheel, so it starts out to be sort of a convex secondary bevel. A concave secondary bevel, or hollow. And then the edge is finished on a polishing wheel, but it's a soft wheel, so it convexes and polishes the very cutting edge, so it's kind of an interesting edge. And Toadstkr was trying to reprofile this, and I know exactly how he felt. He sort of got worn out doing stock removal, and on the secondary bevel, and then he ended up putting like this big old 25 degrees per side, not very micro bevel, and he just got frustrated, and he wrote me or texted me one day and said, "Can I send you this Nyala? It's got me whipped." So he did, and I just bought for my Edge Pro 120 grit aluminum oxide stone, which absolutely chews up this S35 VN. Had a fair amount of material to remove, and I think I was in and out of the sharpener in under an hour, not counting prep time and strop time and all that stuff. But and man, did this edge come out sweet. Just take a look. Just beautiful. This S35 seems to take a polish a lot more easily than S30 does. Pretty cool. You saw the Sebenza cut at the beginning of the video. I don't know if this sort of big, thick, wedgy thing will cut or not, but let's give it a try. I think it might. By the way, this is sharpened at 15 degrees per side, secondary bevel, about 19-ish on the micro bevel, and the micro is pretty tiny. I kind of do that on a lot of my knives just to keep that micro a little less than 20 degrees, just in case somebody's got a crock stick sharpener or a Spyderco Sharpening that's set at 20 degrees per side. It makes touch-ups really easy, and I think it's a great happy medium between thin slicing angle and still a robust supportive angle. Let's see what we got here. Oh. Yeah, that dog will hunt. Dude. Toadstkr. I think that'll work. That's pretty cool. Big old thick blade S35 VN with an edge on it. Oh yeah. Oh guys. Oh, that's a polished edge, and it's going like Murray Carter on me a little bit. Man, what a beauty. Yeah. Oh man, I want one. Well, Toadstkr, I guess I'm gonna put this in a box tomorrow and mail it back to you. Oh, that's gonna be hard to do. Just thought you guys would like to see this. Wow. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Toadstkr's Nyala are sharp. Have a good night.